Salaam again, this is Hubb'Allah. Salaam is a Muslim greeting which means may you be whole, may you be centered, may you be gathered right in that moment so we can transmit to each other. And may you be gathered and centered as a whole. So I'm a Muslim teacher, mother, thinker, climate actionist based currently in the Pakistani Himalayas, and this is part 2 of a video in which I'm speaking about my journey towards eco-feminine teachings, what I call eco-feminine teachings and leadership. Moving towards leadership. Leadership has various definitions. You can be a leader in a community. You can be a thought leader on, especially these days on platforms like X or TikTok. So you can be an influencer, as they say. And leadership is really in the field on the ground. It's personal leadership in family, or it can be an attitude of leadership. So in all these various forms, eco-feminine leadership can be translated. So I'm here to talk about that, here to preach that, here to own that, here to center that concept and make sure something is seeded in our consciousness and in the world in terms of projects and doing. It's already happening, and just uh, shaping it up and giving it a name and trying to turn that into a movement and include those who have not yet been part of it. Because we're reaching an inflection point in this world where I believe this whole spiritual teaching and enlightenment, which has become very centered in conclaves and cults, etc., or groups, etc., it needs to break out of that mold and become common and serve the common people. And I was also actually part of a spiritual community for a while, starting 2007. And it was really nice because what happens when you become part of a spiritual path, it creates like a bubble around you, it creates a perception. There's a whole idea of generating an idea, generating a, a literally a spirit. Human beings, they seed an idea, they generate a sort of dome, and it's the reality of the reality is that it's actually an illusion, but we sustain it through cooperative work. Everything is an illusion, but some illusions are more permanent than others. So within the game of illusions, there are illusions that break and don't work. And there are illusions that work. It's like in gaming, you have games that really work, and you can go from 0 to different levels and then conclude the game in a certain sensible sense, something that makes sense to human beings. And then you have games that don't work. You have coding and programming that don't work. So this is what the world is. Since everything is a simulation, a game, we are looking for the sustainable simulation. And for it to be sustainable, there needs to be integrity within parts. There needs to be cooperation, collaboration between human beings so that we can sustain the illusion together, and that the illusion that we pick is a cooperative one that is going to grow, that is healthy, that is simulating, that is nurturing to the human being, because the human being is a species that thrives in what is nurturing to us. By definition, all species do. Some of the things that they are doing are things that we human beings have understood to be destructive. Like they come and they disappear and they fight with each other and do things which are um, not very healthy. So the human being amongst these species and things on the planet, because they're living, more living species, biologically more biological, such as ants and bees and deers and flora and fauna, and that there are things that look a bit dead, but they actually have a life of their own, like rocks and soil and glaciers, and so they are living in their own way, and actually have a life of them. And this is how they're able to nurture our life. So that's the big thing. But anyway, I want to continue from the previous video where I was talking about how I came from the world of business and media, having studied business and not really done business as such, and then having gotten a job in the media world, and then I quit that and never did a corporate job again. I quit in 2005, and that's when I knew that I needed to work from home. And I got into this whole thing of working from home, being independent, and being able to work with the rhythms of the day in my life, being able to work in a garden, keep the the room ventilated, didn't have to be frozen, chilled and frozen. Like I had to keep it in my media world because we had all the wires running around in the room, and so it had to be chilled. That was not conducive to my body, and I could just have a meal at the time that I wanted to have, and I could walk away from my desk and talk to my family, and then I could also. I decided the work that I chose also was work that I wanted to do, and the work that I focused on was working on climate and ecology and bringing sociology together. In fact, I was later asked to um, talk about myself in leading Pakistani marketing magazine, which profiled people of influence. I was really not into marketing as such, but I was part of the spectrum because I was talking about ethics in marketing and giving services to people, which is really important, and you do that through products and business. And I was also talking to them about social enterprise and business. The magazine was called Aurora Magazine. It was a leading marketing and in some part management, but more marketing and media magazine in Pakistan at the time. Now there are many more and more focused on management and business, hardcore, whatever, and even finance. So it was a marketing magazine actually. And it profiled some influencers. So at that time, back in 2007-8, influencer as such was not a designation on social media. Social media had not broken through to the point, but there were already influencers emerging. And in fact, some of the earlier influencers were bloggers. So I was a blogger since 2003, and though a very niche blogger who was working on business and not popular business, but the vision of business, like the big scale thinking and the future of business. I was talking about things like social enterprise or micro entrepreneurship, which normal people are not concerned about. But my business teachings were for leaders, for political policy leaders and corporations. And some of these people met me in some of the conferences. It really heard me. Unfortunately, I was not really able to scale that. I wish I could. And I started a consultancy called Next at that time. I didn't really formalize it because I didn't know how to, how to be honest. Um, and that was a lack on my part. But what I wanted to do was to publish futurist insights and then lead people. Actually, I didn't know what to do with that. And I think I should have just done conferences and told people what the way of things would be. But the thing is that my futurism was actually very practical and grounded futurism instead of people who talk about flying cars and all that, which are coming about. But some people, when they talk about future, they talk about really fantastical things. And my vision of future was very grounded. I talked about people's issues and challenges and what we needed to give to them. And for me, in fact, it was like a challenge because people suddenly got very excited and I didn't know how to scale that. So around 2005, when I was teaching entrepreneurship, which I talked about in my last video. So if you're not connecting some of the dots, you need to watch the previous video in this on this TikTok. And in 2005, I taught two entrepreneurship in two semesters. Each time it course was different. I taught it spontaneously, and I think I was growing with that thing myself. And in my first semester, at the end of the first semester, in the last class, absolutely, I spontaneously drew something on the board, and that became what is now today Salaam Matrix. Here we go. The salammatrix.org, you can go to the website. And I was talking about how the market or clients or people, everyday human beings, operate in one of the four life zones of realms: spiritual, personal, familial, social, economic, and ecological, political. Today, this model is going beyond a study of markets, because at first it was like, look at what people are doing and why don't you make products for all these things that they do? In all these four life zones that they live kind of daily, there are things that they're doing decision making, they're flying around and they're making economic decisions, they need a bus, they need food to give them products. But now I'm scaling this thing to help policymakers, to help corporations, to help like everyday leaders as well, community leaders, because they're all going to lead it. Leadership is sort of broken down from this top hierarchical thing, like a president is the top and nobody does everything. And now we have understood that we have community level leaders, and in parts of the world where this was not already understood. So the world is getting more and more democratic, especially with the help of the internet as well. And people are taking matters into their own hands. So this is a good model to look into and really empathize with markets. And I will connect that with how that is connected to what I call an eco-feminine approach in the next video. Stay with me and thank you for watching this thing thus far. Thank you.